shadow over Alcatraz. Before we dive into the story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and comment below if you're ready to step inside the walls of America's most infamous prison. The secret you're about to see aren't for the faint of heart. The fog hung low over the cold waters of San Francisco Bay, swallowing the jagged silhouette of Alcatraz Island. A faint orange glow of the early morning sun barely cut through the mist, painting the jagged cliffs and abandoned guard towers in eerie, muted tones. The island, deserted to the public for over 50 years, still held a reputation steeped in danger, betrayal, and whispered legends that had survived decades. But today, those whispers were about to become real again. Inside the decaying cell blocks, footsteps echoed across the concrete floors. Detective Laura Grayson adjusted her coat and squinted through the shadows, the chill biting through her gloves. She had been called to Alcatraz on an unusual tip. A construction crew doing maintenance on the old warden's quarters had uncovered something that should have remained buried. Something someone wanted forgotten. The first thing they found was a body. Not in a grave, not hidden in a basement, but lying slumped against the cold metal of the old laundry room. The man's face was pale, his eyes frozen wide in terror, hands clenched as if he had fought someone right before dying. No one on the island had seen him arrive. No records existed of him being anywhere near Alcatraz. Whoever he was, he hadn't just died. He had left a message, though no one could yet read it. Who would come here? Muttered Officer Daniels, the newest addition to the San Francisco Police Department's cold case unit. His flashlight trembled slightly, not entirely from cold. And why now? Laura crouched beside the body, her trained eye scanning every detail. His clothes were modern. This was not a ghost from the prison's violent past. And yet, there was something unmistakably old about the scene. The scratches on the walls, the smell of damp concrete mixed with metallic tang of blood, and the cryptic scrawling carved into the wooden doorframe nearby. The letters were crude, almost childlike, but unmistakably intentional. He knows. That was the first clue, but it was far from clear what it meant. Who had known, and who had killed him? As the forensic team moved in, Laura's gaze shifted toward the old cells. The bars were rusted and worn, but even in their decay, they exuded menace. Stories of Alcatraz's infamous inmates, Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, the Birdman himself, flooded her mind. The stories had always seemed like relics, ghost tales designed to thrill tourists. But standing here in the silence, she could feel the island's history pressing in, like a weight on her chest. This was no ordinary crime scene. Her mind raced. Alcatraz was supposed to be a fortress, a prison impossible to escape. And yet, its walls had harbored secrets, schemes, and betrayals beyond measure. Laura had spent years chasing cases like this. Murders with no witnesses, evidence that vanished, criminals who played the long game. But something about this felt different. It wasn't just murder. It was a message from the past, a challenge almost too deliberate to ignore. The body was removed, but the tension lingered. As the sun climbed higher, the fog began to retreat, revealing the full decay of the island. Peeling paint, shattered windows, and the skeletal remains of guard towers. Laura knew that somewhere within these crumbling walls lay answers someone had spent decades trying to bury. Her first interviews were with the maintenance crew. Their stories were hesitant, fragmented, a ladder that led nowhere, tools that had vanished overnight, doors that opened on rooms that supposedly didn't exist. And then the most unsettling detail. The crew swore they had heard whispers at night, footsteps and murmurs in empty hallways, voices speaking in tones that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Laura was skeptical, but she filed the accounts carefully. Even if they weren't true, they might hint at someone who knew the prison better than anyone should. By mid-afternoon, Laura had pieced together a preliminary sketch of the victim. He was a historian of sorts, obsessed with the unsolved mysteries of Alcatraz. His research had led him deep into forgotten archives, to letters and photographs no one else had seen. And now he was there. The plot thickened when a security camera from the dock revealed something chilling. A figure, hooded and fast-moving, had slipped past the ferry gates hours before the body was found. The angle was blurry, but the way he moved, silent, deliberate, and familiar with the island's hidden notes, suggested this was no random trespasser. Someone had been waiting for him, or maybe following him. By nightfall, Laura sat alone in the abandoned warden's office, Documents spread across the desk like evidence in a labyrinthine puzzle. Every letter, photograph, and sketch seemed innocuous on its own, but together they hinted at a story the world wasn't supposed to see. A story of corruption, betrayal, and a secret operation that stretched beyond the prison walls. Then she noticed it, a single photograph, worn and faded, showing a man in the warden's chair, except his face had been scratched out. On the back, a single word was scrawled, "Watch." Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just a murder. This was a warning. Someone knew Laura had started digging, and they wanted her to see it before it was too late. The first phone call came at 2 a.m., a whisper so low she barely caught it. "Leave it alone, or you'll end up like him." No number, no voice recognition, nothing. Just a cold, lingering threat that felt like it had seeped out of the prison walls themselves. Laura didn't sleep. She couldn't. Every shadow, every creak of the old building felt like a signal. Someone was watching, waiting, and calculating. She knew the killer wasn't done. They had a plan, and the body in the laundry room was only the beginning. Then came the breakthrough, or at least what she thought was a breakthrough. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard, she found a journal, pages brittle and ink smeared. It detailed the daily routines of Alcatraz guards and prisoners decades ago, but it wasn't just historical. It hinted at illicit deals, secret transfers, and a hidden network of people who had manipulated the prison system for their own gain. Some of the names mentioned were powerful, still active in law enforcement and organized crime. Laura's eyes widened as she read a single chilling entry. The Birdman knew. They can't keep it buried forever. Her mind raced. George Birdman of Alcatraz had died decades ago. But what if the legacy he left behind wasn't just about isolation or insanity? What if it had set a chain of events into motion that was still unfolding? And then, the final piece of evidence arrived, unexpected and terrifying. An envelope slid under the office door. No return address, no name. Inside, a single photograph. The victim, alive, standing in the very laundry room where he would later die. Behind him, barely visible, a figure watching from the shadows. And on the back, a note in the same crude handwriting as the carved letters. He knows too much. He can't leave. Laura's breath caught. Someone had planned this. Someone had orchestrated everything. And now, they were daring her to follow. She stepped back from the desk, staring at the photo, feeling the weight of the island pressing in around her. This was more than a murder investigation. This was a trap, a deadly puzzle with pieces scattered across time, crime, and the shadows of Alcatraz itself. And then, from deep within the darkened hallways of the old cell blocks, came a sound, a metallic scrape, deliberate, slow, echoing through the emptiness. Laura froze. Someone was inside. Someone had been waiting. And in that moment, she realized the truth. Whatever secrets Alcatraz held, they were alive, and they were coming for her next. Secrets in the shadows. Before we continue, remember, this story isn't for the faint-hearted. Hit subscribe, smash that like, and drop a comment if you dare to step further inside Alcatraz's walls. Because the deeper we go, the darker it gets. The scrape echoed again, this time closer. Detective Laura Grayson pressed herself against the peeling wall of the warden's office, heart pounding, flashlight tight in her hand. The island, shrouded in fog and silence for decades, now seemed alive. Every shadow was a threat, every gust of wind a whisper. Someone was inside the prison with her, and they weren't there to talk. She moved slowly, cautiously down the narrow corridor. The sound of metal against concrete guided her steps, a rhythmic, deliberate tapping. Whoever it was knew the building intimately. The footsteps vanished into the darkness ahead, leaving only Laura's shallow breaths and the distant crash of waves against the island's jagged cliffs. Meanwhile, back on the mainland, the city was buzzing. Alcatraz, long a relic of history and tourist fascination, had suddenly re-entered the news cycle. Journalists, thrill seekers, and amateur historians tried to get close, but no one had permission. Laura's unit worked quickly to cordon off the island, but the investigation was fragile. The trail was cold, and the killer, or killers, had left only breadcrumbs. And yet, each clue pulled her deeper into a network of secrets that had survived decades, hidden beneath layers of concrete and rust. Laura's first breakthrough came in the old warden's office. Under a loose panel, she found a second journal, this one much newer, pages thick with freshly inked handwriting. Whoever had written it had been meticulous, detailing dates, locations, and encounters with people who had claimed ties to Alcatraz's darkest days. There were references to long-lost escape plans, bribed guards, and a chain of corruption that stretched into the present. And then one name stood out, Elliot Crane. Crane was notorious in criminal circles, a fixer, a man who had connections to organized crime, law enforcement, and even former inmates who had disappeared without a trace. The journal hinted that Crane had maintained ties with Alcatraz even after its closure, using it as a meeting point for covert operations. Laura's stomach twisted. If Crane was involved, this wasn't just a murder, it was a calculated strike, a move in a game decades in the making. The night air thickened as Laura ascended to the second level of the prison, flashlight slicing through darkness. She checked every cell, every corridor. The sense of being watched never left her. Then she noticed it, a faint outline of a door hidden behind a metal grate in one of the abandoned exercise yards. It hadn't been documented in any of the original prison plans. Her hand trembled slightly as she pushed it open. Inside was a room, small and windowless, filled with crates, faded photographs, and stacks of papers. Dust hung heavy in the air, disturbed only by the light of a flashlight. The photographs were unsettling, men and women, faces scratched out, always with the same symbol carved into the corner of each image, a bird in flight. Laura's pulse quickened. This was a shrine, a record, and a warning, all at once. She rifled through the crates and found a set of audio recordings. The voices were muffled, fragments of conversations discussing Alcatraz's past, secret deals, and threats to anyone who attempted to expose the truth. One recording made her blood run cold. A man's voice, deep and menacing, saying, "They'll never leave, not without paying. Alcatraz keeps its own." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the floor above. Laura spun, flashlight cutting through the darkness, and saw a shadow vanish behind the staircase. Someone was moving, someone who didn't want these secrets uncovered. She called into her radio, but the signal was weak, static-filled. Whoever was inside had anticipated this, and Laura realized she was on her own. Hours passed, and the investigation stretched beyond the island. On the mainland, Elliot Crane's name began to surface in connection with strange disappearances, unaccounted-for transfers, and suspicious deaths. A former guard, one of the few still alive from Alcatraz's operational days, finally spoke. He whispered about a hidden network inside the prison, guards and inmates who had collaborated in secret for years. And when the prison closed, he said that network didn't dissolve. It adapted, persisted, and protected its own at any cost. Meanwhile, Laura's own team discovered something chilling. The body found in the laundry room wasn't just a lone victim. Others connected to Alcatraz's secret history had vanished in the past year. Historians, journalists, even a retired warden's aide, all disappeared without a trace. The same symbol, the bird, had been spotted at each disappearance, etched or painted near crime scenes. Whoever orchestrated this was sending a message. The past was alive, and it would strike again. Back on the island, Laura's pursuit became more dangerous. She followed the shadowy figure into the depths of the old cell blocks, winding through hallways where sunlight had not penetrated in decades. Then she heard it, whispering. Words, horrid and fearful, bouncing off the concrete walls. "You shouldn't be here. He's watching." The whispers led her to a trapdoor beneath one of the cells. The metal was rusted but moved with a groan when she pushed it. Below, a narrow staircase led to a hidden basement. Laura's flashlight illuminated rows of filing cabinets, boxes, and more photographs. And in the center, tied to a chair, was another man, alive, but barely. He looked up with terror-filled eyes. They said, "I had to stop digging." He rasped, "Crane, he's not just a man. He's everywhere." Before Laura could ask more, the floor above shook violently. Someone was pounding from above. The hidden entrance to the basement was about to be compromised. Her instinct screamed at her to leave, but the victim, what little information he could give, was vital. Laura grabbed the man, dragging him into the shadows as debris rained down from the level above. They stumbled through the darkness and emerged in the open courtyard, just as a figure leapt from the stairwell above, landing silently. It was Crane himself, tall, cold, and calculating. He seemed more shadow than man, and the air around him carried a threat that made Laura's skin crawl. "Detective Grayson," he said, voice smooth and deliberate. "You shouldn't be meddling in things you don't understand. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." Before she could respond, Crane vanished into the maze of corridors. The wind howled across the island as Laura realized the depth of the trap she had entered. She had stumbled into a decades-long conspiracy where the lines between past and present, history and crime, were blurred beyond recognition.
And then she saw it, another photograph, pinned to a rusted guard tower wall by a single nail. The image was of her team in San Francisco, taken just that morning. Someone had been watching them too. Every step, every movement recorded, every secret exposed. Laura knew then that the investigation had become personal. Alcatraz's secrets weren't just historical. They were active, alive, and hungry. And whoever controlled them wouldn't stop until anyone who threatened their power was silenced. She stood in the courtyard, rain beginning to drizzle, her mind racing. She had discovered the network, the missing bodies, and even Crane's personal involvement. But she had only scratched the surface. The deeper truth, the real horror of Alcatraz, was still buried within its walls, and she would have to descend even further to find it. And then, as she prepared to leave the island for the night, a low, metallic creak echoed from the lighthouse. Someone had climbed the stairs to the very top, and from that height, they could see everything. The shadows shifted, and a figure appeared, holding something in their hand, a key, a journal, a weapon. Laura couldn't tell. But the message was clear, the next move was theirs. And in that moment, she realized, whatever Crane had started, whatever network had survived for decades, the danger was only beginning. Alcatraz wasn't just a prison. It was a living, breathing trap, and she had stepped right into its heart. The wind carried the faintest whisper across the water. "You're next." The heart of Alcatraz. Before we dive into the final chapter, remember, if you've survived this far, hit subscribe, smash that like, and comment your thoughts. Because the truth inside Alcatraz is darker than you could imagine, and what happens next will leave you questioning everything. The fog had returned in thick, suffocating layers as Detective Laura Grayson stepped onto the island at dawn. Her team was smaller than usual, carefully chosen, only those she trusted most. They had spent the night tracing Elliot Crane's known contacts, uncovering hidden bank accounts, and piecing together decades of criminal influence. But now, Laura had a singular goal: confront Crane, uncover the full truth, and end the reign of terror he had orchestrated from the shadows. Every step across the jagged cliffs of Alcatraz felt like stepping further into a trap. The island seemed alive with secrets. The ruins of the cell blocks loomed over her, skeletal reminders of confinement, corruption, and violence. She carried the journals, photographs, and recordings collected over the past days like a shield. Proof of the network, proof of Crane's involvement. But Laura knew it wouldn't protect her from the man himself. Her first stop was the old warden's office, where previous discoveries had revealed the hidden network. The metallic creak of the doors signaled she was not alone. A shadow darted across the room. Crane. He emerged from the darkness, taller and more imposing than she remembered, a predator finally facing its prey. "Detective," he said smoothly, his eyes cold and calculating. "You've come far. Too far, perhaps. Alcatraz is not a prison. It's a mirror, a reflection of what people will do to survive, and what they'll do to protect secrets." Laura tightened her grip on her flashlight and the evidence. "You've killed to protect this network. I know about the bodies, the disappearances, the historians, the journalists. You've been running for decades, and it ends here." Crane smiled faintly, almost amused. "End? No, detective. It's only beginning. Alcatraz has always been about more than incarceration. It's about control, fear, the illusion of chaos while everything is meticulously arranged." The tension crackled like electricity. Laura's team approached cautiously, but Crane had prepared. Traps, decoys, and hidden pathways ensured no one could move freely without encountering danger. The walls echoed with their footsteps and the distant, rhythmic drip of water from a leaky ceiling. Every shadow seemed to twitch with anticipation, and Laura felt the weight of decades pressing down on her. Then came the discovery that shook her to the core. Behind a false wall in the basement, Laura found an entire hidden wing of the prison. Unused cells, offices, and evidence storage that no one outside Crane's network had known existed. Inside, photographs and dossiers documented the lives of everyone who had crossed him, from former guards to government officials. Every threat had been catalogued, every secret weaponized. And at the center of the room, a single door stood locked, reinforced with steel. Beyond it, faint muffled sounds suggested a captive, or perhaps another victim of Crane's manipulation. Laura felt the dread tighten in her chest. Whoever was behind that door had been kept here, hidden for years, perhaps as leverage or punishment. With a deep breath, she forced the door open. Inside was the most shocking revelation yet. A former warden, alive but frail, chained to the wall. His eyes widened as she entered. "Detective Grayson," he croaked. They promised I'd never leave. Crane, he controls everything." Laura's heart pounded. The warden's testimony confirmed it. Crane hadn't just been operating in secret. He had manipulated the prison from within and beyond, keeping his enemies close and his influence deeper than anyone imagined. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and Crane appeared behind them, blocking the exit. He had anticipated the confrontation. "Detective," he said, calm but lethal, "you've done well to get this far. But knowledge is dangerous. Some doors should remain closed." Laura moved instinctively. Her team spread out, securing angles, but Crane was agile, eerily precise. A tense standoff ensued, echoing through the hollow cell blocks. Shots rang out, metal clanging as Crane ducked and weaved. It wasn't just a confrontation, it was a battle of intellect, preparation, and nerve. Then came the twist no one expected. From behind Crane, another figure emerged, someone Laura thought she could trust, one of her own team. Betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. The mole had been feeding Crane information all along, their loyalty bought or coerced. The situation escalated into chaos. Laura's instincts and quick thinking became the only line between survival and death. With a sudden maneuver, she drew Crane into a trap of her own making. Using the environment of the prison, rusted gates, narrow corridors, and shadowed alcoves, Laura separated him from his advantage. Cornered in a collapsed stairwell, Crane finally realized the net had closed. "Why?" he demanded, fury and disbelief mixing in his voice. "You could have walked away. Why chase this to the end?" Laura stared him down, resolve unshakable. "Because justice doesn't wait for permission. Because people died, and you thought you could hide behind decades of power. And because Alcatraz doesn't just contain prisoners, it contains truth. And I'm here to set it free." Crane's final attempt at escape ended in a desperate, violent struggle. The floor groaned, metal shattered, and in the end, he was subdued. Handcuffed and restrained, he finally realized the legacy of fear he had built was crumbling around him. The aftermath was devastating but necessary. Laura's team freed the captive warden, secured the hidden evidence, and catalogued every detail of Crane's network. Across the city, arrests were made, financial accounts frozen, and those complicit were brought to justice. The shadow of Alcatraz's influence finally began to dissipate.
But the island still held its secrets. The fog lingered over the cliffs. The cell blocks loomed like silent sentinels, and the whispers of past prisoners seemed to echo faintly through the halls. Alcatraz had been tamed, but its history, the betrayals, murders, and manipulations, would never truly disappear. In the final moments, Laura stood on the edge of the island, looking out across the water at the city she had protected. She thought of the victims, the historians, the warden, and the man she had caught. And then, almost imperceptibly, she noticed something, a single shadow moving among the ruins, far off, watching. A reminder that Alcatraz, even after Crane, would never fully relinquish its hold on those who dared to enter its walls. As the wind carried the faintest whisper across the water, she felt it in her bones. They thought it was over, but Alcatraz never forgets. And with that, Laura walked away, the sun breaking through the fog, leaving the island standing silent but alive, a monument to history, crime, and secrets too dangerous to die. If you think the story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.